To today's other top story. Is the government finally about to actually take back control of our borders and ignore foreign judges? Now, this time yesterday, we were sitting here talking about the fact that the government is, despite saying it's going to stop the boats, preparing for 56,000 Channel migrant crossings this year, 140,000 people in hotels and other forms of accommodation as well. And it was looking a bit bleak as they tried to invoke a national emergency and, well, commandeer various different government-owned sites despite protestations from various residents' groups. But Rishi Sunak has promised to stop these boats, and now he's understood to have caved in to backbench Tory rebels and agreed to amend the illegal migration bill, which, as we understand it, would allow government ministers to ignore European judges in certain situations. The ECHR stopped that Rwanda flight from taking off as it was on the runway, and this clearly is an attempt to stop that from happening again and get some planes taking off to Rwanda. But is the government's amendment even legal? Joining me now is human rights lawyer Paul Gilbert. Paul, great to have you on the show. There he is. Thank you very much. Paul, this seems like good news for anyone who wants us to have proper control over our own borders. Does the legal community share this view?
Well, I'm not sure it's about control over the borders. This is more about how you deal with people once they've got over the border into the country illegally, and how quickly you can remove them. As far as how the legal community is responding to this, there is a great deal of concern about it, chiefly because what it is essentially doing is going behind an international agreement that we have signed, which is that we signed up to the European Convention on Human Rights. And it's pursuant to that these, as they're known, Rule 39 orders are made. So we're really saying, OK, we've signed up to this agreement. We don't like this particular part of it, so we're just going to ignore it. And the problem with that is it sets a precedent. It really says that we say we respect the rule of law in this country.
I ask, Paul, does it set a precedent?
We aren't going to follow them.
I'm not sure it does set a precedent, though, does it? Because there wasn't this big hoo-ha when we said that prisoners wouldn't be allowed the vote, and our European counterparts said otherwise. We ignored the ECHR then, and that hasn't set a precedent. In fact, we have stuck to the ECHR more than loads of other countries who are actually subject to it as well. I'm looking at a report here, believe it or not, from The Guardian, which was praising us, saying the UK was only even found to have acted unlawfully in fewer than 1% of cases lodged against it at the ECHR. So why is there this idea that because we ignore them over who we can ask to leave this country, that it would set a precedent and we would essentially become a horrible outlier?
Well, first of all, it's a reputation issue, isn't it? What it's really saying is that when we sign up to an international agreement, and let's be clear about this, we're not just talking about signing up to the European Convention on Human Rights, because I know that's a very unpopular thing amongst certain circles. The issue of extradition, that's all international agreements that we sign, which we abide by. So the point is that what it's going to do is essentially send a message out there that when we sign up to an international agreement, you cannot guarantee that the United Kingdom will follow it if it happens to be, if part of it happens to subsequently then go against whatever the government
can't guarantee that
wants
Spain,
to achieve.
But you can't guarantee, as it currently stands, that Spain, Portugal, loads of other signatories of this. We adhere to ECHR rulings more than them. And in fact, we're level with Germany. So, realistically, we're in the same boat as them.
I'm delighted to hear that, and that's how it should be. But that doesn't mean that we should therefore be able to say, well, look, we're normally very good, but on this occasion we're not going to be. We're going to ignore it. So you sign up to... the answer to this is they renegotiate the deal. But they're not going to do that because it's going to take too long. And crucially, I suspect, because it'll take longer than whenever the next election is going to take place. That's what this is to do with. The proper way, renegotiate the agreement.
It would be the proper way. Can you understand, though, Paul, why maybe some people are quite exercised about the idea of, some people may be coming over here, we take a look at them and we say, look, we with respect, you have arrived here illegally, and we don't want the burden on the British taxpayer, which is already very high, to be on looking after you while it takes us well, in some cases, several years to process your asylum claim, which I appreciate is also our fault, by the way. But that they actually don't like the idea that some anonymous foreign judge in the dead of night somewhere might be able to say, no, you have to keep this chap in your country. I mean, that is not palatable to the British public as a whole, I don't think, is it?
I completely understand that view, and I do think what doesn't help is the way that the European Court of Human Rights is sort of spoken of, and I'm not saying that's by particular people. Generally, I think there's a misunderstanding about how important it is. So that, that's also a failure to communicate effectively on that. And I absolutely understand the frustration that people feel about these people coming over on the boats for, all sorts of reasons. But in a way, isn't really the point about this is do something that is going to dissuade them from getting on the boats in the first place, rather than because in the end,
it might be
it's going to be you still got to deal with them when they arrive. And I think you and I discussed a case not so long ago where it might even have been that Rwandan flight where one of the criticisms was that the applications weren't processed properly, and so do something to stop the
we
the
can
boat
help
people
ourselves
coming
more
over rather than what this is.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Look, Paul, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Paul Gilbert there, who is a human rights lawyer. I mean, I suppose the argument to this is, well, this would be the deterrent, wouldn't it? This would be the deterrent, is that actually if people do see, in light of the fact that we can't really tow the boats back, and I know a lot of people who email me a lot of the time here do want us to turn the boats back. We're not, I don't really think, going to do that, ever. So the only other thing that we could do is get planes taking off to places like Rwanda, and this might allow us to do that.